This is our podcast. We have a podcast. We talk about shit and we talk about stuff, but we mostly just talk a lot in our podcast. Today's episode, red flags.
I love that. I think when everyone thinks about red flags, everyone gets like different ideas of specific things, because I think we all have like a few instances in our life that like stands out to us as like, oh man, I really should have known better immediately.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, when we talk red flags, it's always about usually romantic like relationships. And don't get me wrong, those are like the red flags that like always blink the reddest of just like, wow, damn, oh no.
I suppose.
Yeah, but
I have some from friendships.
You have some from friendships? Those are good. Let's start with that, because that is uncommon, I feel.
Okay, well, I used to be friends with a person in high school, and then I was all of a sudden very abruptly no longer friends with that person.
Mm-hmm.
I think because, well, I dated someone that I think he probably either had feelings for or liked, or I don't know. There was probably some upset around that. I'm not sure what it was. Nobody was ever forthright about it. But then I guess like when that person broke up with me, that friend chose him, which was kind of upsetting because at that point I had been friends with that person for like almost 6 years or quite a while.
Wow.
Anyway, there were definitely red flags in that this person used to say, oh, every couple of years I replace my friend group. But don't worry, Hilary. And like, yeah, like very, oh, I'm bored with this person. I like don't get anything from them anymore, so I'm just not going to be friends with them anymore. Like full friend groups. Anyway.
Wow.
And then I guess I just ended up eventually, I was one of those casualties. So that was definitely like a red flag.
Yeah. I think that also...
You know, like if somebody says that to you, be like, well,
yeah,
you probably won't be my friend in a few years. But I guess because I was that person's best friend, I thought, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm untouchable.
Oh, no.
Nope. But that's okay.
I think that kind of fits in like my personal idea of just red flags, but also people. And I think that encapsulates it really well. Is that the idea that people are constantly telling you about themselves, you know, like telling you how they are, telling you what they're like. And sometimes you just have to believe them, you know, like someone who says what
absolutely.
Someone who says what was said to you. I guess it's like the good in us or maybe the naive in us that says, oh, that's just a joke. But, you know, is it though? One came to mind. I remember I had a very short friendship with someone that I like met through like a mutual acquaintance that I also stopped being friends with. So I guess like it's just it goes all the way down. But they would bring up their wealth a lot, and then also bring up that all of their friends that they've made were either mooching off of them or leeching off of them or literally stealing from them. Yeah.
Okay.
And like, I think there's like, the way it's presented, there was a knee-jerk reaction of me of like, oh, that's terrible. That sucks to be stolen from. And I would never do that. But I should have like, it's one of those, what is it? If everyone's crazy, it's actually them who is crazy, like the common denominator thing.
Yeah. If you're talking to a guy, if you're on a date with a guy and he's like, yeah, all my ex-girlfriends are crazy, chances are that he's the one that made them that way.
Or that he's just crazy and perceives regular boundaries as crazy, you know?
Yeah, I suppose. But I mean, like, there are so many different varieties of red flags. Like, red flags related to boundaries. I had an ex-boyfriend that was absolutely the worst about that. Like, if I didn't text him a certain goodnight a certain way, he would get upset. It doesn't seem damaging when it's happening because you sort of care about that person. I don't know. But when you take off those rose-colored glasses, you're like, wow, that's actually a really bad behavior.
Yeah.
So,
I think sometimes
and it had nothing to do with me. It was the conversation in his head that was getting out of control.
Course.
But there's also things like when you said flaunt your wealth, I had, and this is going to be so bad because there's going to be a lot of like, I had an ex that did this probably in this episode just because we're talking about red flags. And that's like usually a romantic or that kind of relationship is the relationship you invest a lot of your emotions into, right? So that's kind of where the majority of those experiences would probably come from. But anyway, I had an ex-boyfriend, the same one that took my friend in the divorce, that also used to flaunt his wealth a lot, and in a nice way, like in a way that makes you feel like, but he's just being kind, like, you know, he just wants to pay for everybody because he's generous. But it's like, no, there's also a little bit of he wants you to know that it's because he can and he has the money. Like, I remember one time I mentioned that I had never been given flowers romantically before. And then over the next like week, he figured out through conversation casually what flower I liked. And then he went and he bought it. And it's like, oh, that seems so romantic. But it's like, he also made sure that he gave it to me in front of my friends so that he looked like a really good boyfriend. Like, you know, like it wasn't just for me very clearly. But at the time I didn't realize that. It wasn't until like, honestly, quite frankly, like a couple of years later, I was like, hey, wait a minute. I done got duped.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think a part of like red flags are just this idea of being able to see nefarious behavior that appears to be benign in nature, right? And I think
and sometimes it can be masked in kindness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the time they don't even know they're doing it, right? Because if they were actually nefarious, they wouldn't be dropping hints of their nefariousness. I don't know.
Nefariousness.
Thank you. And I think, like, for me, the immediate thought is the easiest way to kind of find people's red flags. And I don't know if I suggest this. This is just something I believe and maybe not a good idea, but it's to poke, right? Because red flags are kind of like walls, like people's like boundaries. If you go looking, you're going to find them for better or for worse, you know, like, and I don't know if it's a good tactic to suggest to people because one, like, I get it that people are afraid of dealing with, like, when you've dealt with a certain type of person repeatedly, like, if you feel like you're vulnerable to people taking advantage of you one way or another, you tend to be very defensive and on the lookout for those kind of people. But it does also, you know, make you pry into people in ways that might alienate them, whether you're right or not. And also, you know, I'm not going to lie that it might be dangerous, you know. If you meet someone for the first time and you're worried that they might be abusive, maybe don't try to see how abusive they really are, right? But I think, like, a lot of figuring out flags, like, to me, are unequal lines, and I'm going to give some examples of what I believe unequal lines would be. So, for example, someone who, when you ask questions to figure out who they are, or if you offer things, they're comfortable saying no, but they don't take no as an answer from you. Right? Like, like that's a very easy one to see. Like, someone who doesn't take a no will never take a no. Like, especially if it's like little shit, especially like drinks or like gifts or things like that. When people don't listen to you then, when shit gets real, they're not going to listen to you later.
Okay.
But I also think that applies to like If someone wants a certain level of openness from you, so less privacy on your part, but wants to remain private in those same ways, that to me is also like just a giant alarm bell of just like, oh,
Yes.
no.
Yes, both people have to share.
Yeah.
That's why when you said earlier,
Mm.
like earlier, would you want to be able to see what people's red flags are, like, before you go out on a date with them?
Yeah,
I said no,
let's
because
contextualize
I think
that before we get into the reason.
Okay,
So the idea
that's true, because it wasn't...
is you've got a super cool pair of goggles, and you put on these goggles, and you can learn about people's red flags, but you have to pry into their life to do that. Now, I don't know if you want it to be so they know that you know, or otherwise. I don't know if that changes it for you. But, like, you put these...
I feel like... I think it does change things, definitely, if they know that you know that they're red flags, but I feel like I would still not want to know overall.
That's fair. So what are your reasonings? Why wouldn't you want to use this device?
Well, it's kind of one big reason. If you're getting to know someone, especially getting to know someone romantically, obviously you want that to begin from a place of like trust and good communication. And so if a person has a past or has things in their past that might be red flags, I would prefer that they communicated that to me. If they didn't and I found out about them, or if I just saw like cracks in their behavior, like you were saying before, like someone who expects you to share a lot but doesn't share anything private about themselves, which I have had happen to me. And like, ladies, don't do it. If he tells you, I'm not going to tell you my secrets, but you have to tell me yours, don't date him. Anyway, I just feel like that person should feel comfortable, or you should feel comfortable talking about your own red flags together.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah. So that's why I wouldn't really want to know ahead of time. Mostly, too, because, like, that takes all the fun out of learning about a person, which can be, I don't know, maybe it's like an arts thing, or like, I don't know.
No, I think it's
just fun to try and get to know people.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
The real people without them divulging it.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really pragmatic and like really good points. My big reason of no was simply that, like, when would you be able to take the goggles off? Like, you're meeting a romantic date and you put the goggles on and you're like, oh, they're not over their ex and they're going to talk about them a lot. And I'm like, oh, well, it's good to know that. But then I'm going to turn my head slightly and see the bartender. And it's going to be like, oh, yeah, he looks at really weird stuff on the internet. And then I'm not going to be able to stop. My date's going to sit there and be like, hey, do you mind putting down? And I'll be like, shut the fuck up. I need to know everything about everyone in this room. Like...
Yeah, here, put these on.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd share.
No?
Because...
No, you wouldn't?
Well, because the real reason is because then I don't get to look through the goggles for the next 10 minutes, but maybe when I get bored, I'd give it to someone else. But, I also would feel really weird knowing that someone knew what my stuff was, and I don't, but I don't, because that would feel a little weird. And I think that's kind of where that part of it kind of falls apart for me, because I'm like, this is a really shitty thing to do to someone. Then the other part of my brain is like, what if my family walked by? I don't want to know. They're entitled to some privacy of like the weird stuff they've done. I don't want to know what they've done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But let's
absolutely
let's bend it a little bit, because I think it is kind of too easy of a question. So let's say instead of being able to read someone's mind before you meet someone, you can have a 5-minute conversation with like their best friend or
I thought you were going to say their ex.
I was going to say their ex, but then I thought that's too polarizing. I think
Well, funny you should say, because there have been two people that have messaged me about my most recent ex being like, is he a good person to date?
Mm-hmm. And
I'm like, honey, if you have to ask, you already know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the wrong person to ask anyways, because even if I met someone's ex and they were like, "Oh my God, they were so wonderful. I love them with all my heart. They made me feel safe and good and happy." And I'd be like, "Dude, do you want another go at this? Like, I feel like I'm intruding."
Right? Mm-hmm.
So, let's not say it's their ex. Let's say it's their best friend. Would you take that conversation?
Well, I don't know.
I would be afraid. My immediate gut instinct is, what if I fall in love with the best friend instead? Oh, rom-com.
I'm like, what if the best friend doesn't like me? What if the best friend is a girl who's actually in love with the person I'm going out with and she just already doesn't like me? Like, that's where my brain goes.
Okay, well, but that's still information, right? Like, that's still, to me...
It's true.
I don't want to date someone who's... Okay, I've dated... at least one or two people. I feel like it's just that I've known of. I've dated people who they've had a really good friend who is very clearly in love with them. And the person I'm with was like, oh no, they're just, I don't see them that way. And I believe them. And I did believe them through and through. But if I met that person first, like that would change it a little bit, right? Like,
I feel like I would be put off.
Yeah, I'd be put off too.
I'd be like, didn't I say this last time? I don't want to compete.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Why I wouldn't be on The Bachelor, remember?
Yeah, that's true. No competition. Yeah. Okay, so then it is let's step away from best friend. Let's see how close we can narrow this. What if it was their coworker?
I definitely feel like that would be more honest.
Yeah?
Because coworkers don't have to like each other. They're paid to be together.
Yeah.
Right? So, I don't know. If you had a coworker that you just, like, really hated and someone was like, yeah, I'm going to date them, wouldn't you want to just be like, actually, they're terrible. Let me tell you why. They yell at me all the time.
Yeah.
They stomp on my innovative ideas.
Okay. All right.
So
that you get a more honest thing, but you still have the risk of bias. I'm thinking right now if I met someone who was just like, hey, I want to date your coworker. Can you tell me some things about them? I think that'd be fun. I'd have a lot of fun. I'd be like, well, first of all, they sign their name really stupid. Like, the way they do it is dumb. And therefore, you shouldn't be with them.
They have a dumb signature.
Absolutely.
It will look dumb on your marriage license.
When I call them to get some information done, they wait 3 rings minimum before picking up. Always. And you know what?
That's rude.
That's real rude. That's the worst. You see, I feel like I would just be mean because of that kind of, like, unregulated kind of, I can talk shit about someone for the fun of it. Or I would be extra nice because I'd feel bad, I'd be like, oh, Karen? No, she's nice. Like, she's just set in her ways, Or, she's just particular. Like, I feel like that would speak volumes. So maybe that works. Okay, how about this? Let's get a little more Black Mirror in this. You're gonna go on a date.
Okay.
And let's say off of some kind of social media app or like Tinder-esque thing. And what you get before the date is reviews but no comments. So there's like 5, let's say, hold on, I should be writing this down for my $100 million idea. Okay, so there's 5 qualities, like looks, smarts, emotions, money, and wild card. And they have markings from 1 to 5. Would you use that system?
I don't know, because I feel like I would want to find out for myself. Still.
No, that's true. But like, if you met someone and they had like 3 in looks, 2 in smarts, 1 in emotion, 5 in money, and 5 in wild card, you wouldn't want to meet that person immediately?
No.
Well,
first of all, you need a humor category.
Oh, that's smart. That's a good point. All right.
Because people who are funny make it's a big deal. But I'm just like, personally, no, because that's not something that I care about. Like, the money is just a bonus, I guess, but I would rather 5 in money is not enough for me to compensate for like a 2 in smarts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair.
So.
And I think the problem is there that you don't know who wrote the reviews.
Well, yeah, it could be someone that, like, maybe he gave her a lovely time, but she's jaded because she hates men.
Well, first of all, we are jaded.
Or maybe it's
jaded.
A bot.
Like, it's too late for us, so.
We're jaded. You mean you and I?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but you've actually never been on Tinder, so you don't know what it's like.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm jaded in that people are dumb. I'm not jaded as I've had a wall of dick pics thrown at me on the word go.
You actually can't send dick pics on Tinder, but does anybody remember a time? This is going to be so embarrassing.
Oh, no.
This was like 2014 Tinder.
Oh my God.
Yeah, back in the like beginning times where you could actually post stories on Tinder the same way that you can on Instagram.
Oh.
Yeah, back in the old days. Back in the
glory days?
I don't know. It was almost worse because if a boy wasn't answering you, then you'd see he was like, still on Tinder taking photos.
Yeah.
But not answering you. You'd be like, well, fuck you, asshole.
That's fair.
Not answering my text messages. So, I don't know. I think eventually it probably was problematic, but...
So I am getting that maybe a less is better kind of approach, to finding out about someone. Like, I do respect the idea that you could, like, we all want to find out ourselves. But if I told you I had 20 guys in a room that would date you and one of them's a murderer, like... Oh,
I'd want to know that.
That's... Okay, so that's where our line starts to get a little more solid, is which one's...
Oh, yeah, if it was, like, convicted felon, I'd want to know. And that happened to me once.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this was a while ago, a guy messaged me on Plenty of Fish, and we were sort of hitting it off, and then he was like, by the way, I have to tell you, I just got out of jail. And I was like, oh, what'd you do? Just because I was curious, because I was like, well, this isn't going anywhere. But what'd you go to jail for? And, yeah, he was like a big drug dealer that got busted in the east end of the city and went to jail for 2 years. I forget his name now, but at the time, you could Google him, and he came up.
Damn.
In a newspaper article.
I mean...
Yeah. Anyway, and then I was like, well... Good luck with everything. Goodbye.
Yeah, good. I mean, good for him.
Luckily, though, this was all through a messaging platform. Not
in person.
Face-to-face.
I mean, good on him for telling you, I guess I'm going to say. But, I mean, there's some cool crimes if maybe this is just me, if I was meeting someone and they're like, yeah, I just got out of jail, I was like, oh, for what? And they're like, yeah, I completely tagged the Parliament buildings. Like, I just drew.
What about like internet piracy?
Yeah, well, fuck, I don't think you get. I know you don't get time in prison for that. You'd have to pirate. God knows what you'd have to pirate. Some fucked up stuff, and then obviously avoid that person. But if someone drew dicks all over the Parliament buildings and was like, yeah, I went to jail, I'd be like, cool, you want to hang out? You want to get tattoos of the Parliament building covered in the...
With dicks
Yeah,
on it?
covered in dicks. Could be our couple tattoo. I think I'd be too infatuated with that person. I don't think it would work out. It would be... it'd be too much.
I don't know.
Okay, I will write down here that prison time is a red flag. I think that's pretty universal. Okay. I think you kind of said the next one I'm going to ask. Do you Google the person's name in the search?
Oh, hell yeah, I do.
Fuck. Immediately.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I've seen enough episodes of Catfish. I'm not stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I Google because I want to make sure that if I Google your name, like, also and this is not so much of a problem and harder to do on things like Tinder, but you know, and this would be under a certain circumstance. Like if you're talking to somebody for like months and they refuse to meet you in person and they refuse to video chat with you, like then I would like do a Google image search on their images to make sure that they're not using someone's images, because chances are at that point you might be being catfish. But yeah, I Google the person just to make sure that you're not like a felon, that your name's not going to come up in some nefarious scheme or something like that, that you're not like a Brock Turner or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
No, that's fair.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that want to hurt other people, that prey on people on dating sites, and it's important to make sure that you're not like walking into a trap, or to at least do everything you can to avoid doing that. And I'm not saying that happens a lot and all the time, but you know, it's always good to Google. I even Google myself just to make sure that there isn't.
Yeah, I've been Googling you this whole time because I wanted to test what you were saying. Yeah, and there's nothing about you. There are a few images of you.
Yeah.
But that's reasonable. I Googled myself, and you find me immediately to articles I've written about my nerdy hobbies, to my LinkedIn, and then my my work email, because it's public information. So, no pictures, it seems, of me, though. Oh, no, wait, an old comic that someone made.
Oh, my TikTok pops up.
Ooh.
And theater reviews.
There's a few Turkish men that look vaguely like me. I don't know if that counts.
I'm on a site called Freelanced, and I don't ever remember being on this site.
Uh-oh. All right, so Googling someone immediately. Okay, how far do you take it? I know I don't think you do this, but there's like websites that compile shitty people. Would you run them through there?
Mm-hmm. Like, you should do that?
No, I'm asking you, would you run through, like let's say there's a website.
Oh yeah,
called
there is. It's called The Dirty.
Yes, I'm familiar. I didn't want to call out anything in case you had your own, so I could learn about others. But
I mean, I only know about The Dirty. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Would you run them through there as well?
But, I never have, but honestly, like, now I'm thinking maybe I should. But I also occasionally check for myself on that. Not that I'm awful, but you never know who might want to just trash you.
Oh, absolutely. I looked myself up, and immediately it just felt like the right thing to do.
I mean, if you don't.
Who knows what people are saying? Okay, I have an extension of, I feel like you want to figure things out yourself, and I think that people's red flags when other people tell you about them, there's biases. So I found a solution to both these problems. So let's say it's about 10:30 at night. You're going on a walk. It's a real hot night. And a fucking bolt of lightning in a car comes out of nowhere. The door opens and it's you from like 10 years in the future. And she's like, listen, I know you're about to go on a date with that person, Chad. Do you want to know anything about that date or about him in advance? Would you ask questions?
Yes. If it was me, because I have done stupid shit like dated people on several different times when I probably should not have. Or just like should have thought more prudently about it. So.
But then isn't that the problem of the common denominator where you've been fooled before, so you might still be fooled in the future?
I mean, but you could always be fooled.
That's
Everyone
true.
could be fooling you at any moment.
That's just not useful information.
I'm reading The Hunger Games right now, so it's very much like everything is fake.
I think I'd be concerned if I met myself coming out of a time machine. My first concern is we're about to fight to the death. Like, that's because I want that time machine. But assuming that's off the table, I don't know if I trust future me. Future me has seen some shit, and maybe I need to see that shit, or maybe
That's true.
I don't know if it's going to turn out the same way. But I'd probably ask some questions, some vague stuff, and then like inevitably break down and say, "Tell me everything. I got time." And that could be fine. I don't know. I feel like I do get the kind of problem with trying to figure out someone's secrets when you meet them, whether they be friends or otherwise, because it puts you in a certain mood on the way in. And I know that because I have gone and read ratemyteacher.com or whatever that is before going to a class. Mm-hmm. And I've had classes where people hate my teacher and I end up loving them. And so I do recognize there's a certain amount of, if you go in looking for problems, you're going to find them, right?
Yes.
I don't think there's a solution to that, though. I don't know. I think it's also different for me. Like, I don't feel danger in meeting people, so I understand that if some person is a little anxious about meeting someone, which is pretty common. People who want to meet for the first time and invite people over to their houses. I'm like, I'd like to meet you in public,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because that's... Like, I get like a nice little litmus test or kind of like a scanning device that'd be like, oh, he's not a murderer, you're in the clear, would be real fucking helpful. But I also wonder, like, some of that information might not be... Like, if you scan someone and it goes, you have 12-year marriage, and then you end up going your separate ways. Do you still go on a date with that person?
You mean I was married to someone for 12 years and then we divorced and then we're going on a date again?
No, that is a really good question. No, I meant that you could see the future and you know that you and them, you're going to break up because he really likes hockey cards and will always put them first. But this is not something that reaches its boiling point 12 years from now when you've been married. It's not going to be a problem until then. Do you still date them?
I don't know. That's like a good 12 years. I feel like maybe... Are there any children? Like, oh.
Hold on, I have dice. I can.
There's a lot of variables in that argument.
I have dice. We can answer these questions. Is there children? I'm going to say high or low. High, there's children. There are no children.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you need to have those experiences, but at the same time, hockey cards are something so stupid that there obviously has to be a more underlying issue as to why you broke up.
Well, isn't that the fun of...
After 12 years.
Is that the fun of going through the 12-year relationship? To find out what really is the problem? And in the end, it just turns out to be fucking hockey cards. And you're like, I've wasted 12 years!
I mean, that part is a bit disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
I would want it to be a bit more dramatic than that.
How much more dramatic? If you... Okay, what if you scan someone else, next person in line, and you're like, oh, you have a passionate romance of ups and downs and constant things. He's part of a secret cabal of, I don't know, undersea explorers. But, yep, he's like a treasure hunter. But in the end, you guys get in a rivalry between you, a love triangle between you, him, and Fernando. And in the end, he ends up choosing Fernando over you.
I'd be like, nah, pass.
No, that sounds so exciting! You get to go deep sea diving.
I'm fine for the roller coaster of emotions, but I don't want it to end in like a love triangle. That part makes me anxious.
Okay.
I don't like having to compete, RJ.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that.
I like feeling like I am the most special, sparkly person ever. The end. I'm an Aries.
Okay, god damn it. I'm not like that. I don't think I'm that special.
I know. I just like saying it because you get mad.
Yeah, I do get mad. Okay, but what about this? So, but because to me that's so much more interesting than you meet on a subway train. Your hands touch as you both try to pick up the same bit of garbage that should have been recycled. Immediately, you go for coffee and realize you have the same common interests and the same kind of life choices. You like the same bands and have the exact same CD collection, which gets awkward when you move in together and you have to throw half of it away. Years down the line, the relationship ends because, in the end, they had to make a difficult choice between their career and spending more time with you. And for them, their career was everything. And you end up having a good handshake as equals and split up. Like, what the fuck is that? Are you going to have that relationship?
Well, no, that's boring too.
Oh my god. There's no pleasing you. Okay, what? You want... If you look into the future and you see this... Okay. This becomes a would you, wouldn't you game at this point, where you scan this person and it goes, oh man, you know what? They fucking love you. They love you so much, and they would never leave you. But...
Oh, no, I hate that too.
But... they baby talk for at least 30 minutes a day. It's just a thing.
No.
You see? Yeah. But the thing is, the problem with red flags and concerns is that everyone has these things, right? Like, if someone scanned me, they would say, yeah, he's really, like, needy. He needs affirmation and, love. Especially, I did one of those quizzes, the love languages quizzes. It was real stupid.
Okay. What's your love language?
Oh, physical. Absolutely. It was like, there's 5 of them.
Yeah.
And hold on, my fucking phone's nearby. Here's Arja's red flags through love languages. Oops, that's the wrong button. There we go. So I know it was like out of... Okay, well, my entire phone has crashed, so... it was out of 100, and what I remember is that my highest one was like a 30%. It was physical intimacy, or physical touching. Because that's just the best, And then... and then 0% was gift giving.
Hello?
Because fuck that. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And then the other ones were just, like, slightly lower. But, like, oh, man, if you date me, you're got to get used to holding my hand all the time. Not like, Hold on. I didn't mean in like I can't do anything by myself. I mean like physically fingers intertwined.
No, I know.
Like
I've seen you and your partner together. Yeah.
It's real gross. I love it, but it's real gross.
Space. There's none of it. There's no space.
Yeah, because that's important to me. That's great. But, you know,
no, I get
is
it.
someone
Not
out there.
That's not for me. But
Yeah, someone out there scans me. Her name is Bethany. She's a doctor. She's ready to fall in love, but sees that and goes, you know what? Fuck it. I don't like holding hands. I'm not going to date him. Like, obviously she's missing out, is what you're supposed to say. But regardless,
I mean, I half agree. I like holding hands sometimes, but
it's gotten real sweaty.
It's not my love. Physical is not my love language.
That's fair. But it's hot out these days, so hand holding's gotten real sweaty, so you got to get ready for that. That's a way I'm high maintenance, you know, sweaty hand holding.
Jeez.
But like okay, that's obviously not what we would consider a very big red flag, but that's something that, you know, that might make someone disinterested in a relationship in the same way that hockey cards or like something else, you know.
Why hockey cards?
I don't know.
It's just so random anyway.
It's just so dorky to me. Like, you know, I'm a loser that collects.
Says the person that collects magic
Absolutely.
cards.
But you can't, as far as I understand, you can't lay out all your hockey cards on a table and make teams and pretend to have a hockey game. So.
I mean, you might.
Ugh, that would be fun. But I'm not going to do that. But I think the thing is like, okay, here's another thing I think about red flags. Is they kind of, and I know this in itself is a red flag, but red flags as a concept remove the idea that people can change. And thinking you can change people is a red flag, and I understand that. Like, if you meet someone and you're like, oh man, I really like the way he folds origami, but I hate the way he picks his nose during the whole thing. I could probably convince him to stop picking his nose and continue to fold origami. And I think...
I mean, I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing, but okay. I think your example needs to be a bit more drastic. Like, hey, I'm going to date you, but I don't like anything about how you look. So, one guy I dated kept trying to make me do things that his ex-girlfriend used to do. Like, well, she dyed her hair with henna, so you should too, Hilary. Or like, she used to shop at this store, so you should shop there too. That's a kind of like, oh, you're trying to change me. That is a big red flag.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. All right. That is more specific.
Whereas, like, if I was like, you fold beautiful paper cranes, but they're covered in boogers. Also, learn you're a grown-ass adult. Stop picking your nose in public. Do it in your own room or in the bathroom like the rest of us.
I guess, but the thing that you think you could change them, like here's my concept, is that if he's picking his nose while doing paper cranes in public and cool with it, what's the weird shit he does in his room when no one's looking, right?
Probably masturbating.
Well, that's free. But I meant like weirder stuff. Like he's got an altar that he shaves animals in front of. I don't know. Like
what?
I imagine very specific people, clearly.
I mean, yes, actually. And your examples are always really specific, but also not like common examples. So you would probably be pretty good at improv.
That's okay. Fair. Thank you. But I also, I guess because it's really obvious. If I said something like, you know, he talks constantly about his ex-girlfriend, it's really easy to go, no, fuck it, that's a red flag, you're outie. But like, you know, but it's also like if someone's brokenhearted, some people find that endearing, I guess. Like,
maybe they need to work through it. I don't know. You know, you can be your own fixer. You don't have to be someone else's fixer.
I worry that this kind of mentality Like, because I think red flags are really important. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to devil's advocate it because, frankly, if you meet someone and they're doing what we would see as a common red flag of, like, you know, not listening to you, buying you drinks when you say no, or like making fun of the things you like, or just being shitty to waiters, like, yeah, absolutely ditch that person because they can't even hide it on the first date. It's fucked. But when you examine relationships, romantically or otherwise, on a level of red flags or potential disasters, you know, you kind of create, one, an us versus them scenario, but two, like, I mean, you're there too, honey, right? Like, it takes two to tango kind of business. And I fear that this mentality of trying to find someone else's hangups kind of washes your hands from your own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Although if they could be just trying just as hard to find yours.
True. Like a fucked up version
I
of
think it
Guess
also
Who.
just takes the fun out of the adventure that you're going to have getting to know that person or getting to know each other,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of unfortunate when you know everything about them. Like, that's not
Yeah. I also think
to know all that right off the bat.
I wouldn't want to go on a first date where you sit down, you both take out this giant list of questions, and you're like, all right, let's just speed through a bunch of these. Are you married? No. Are you currently thinking about being married? Okay. Like, you get, like, that doesn't sound like fun. That doesn't sound amusing.
I don't know. One guy that I was chatting with in the Rona, when the Rona sort of first started, he was like, yeah, I have a checklist and you check off every box
Ugh.
except one of them was have children. And I was like, haha, that's so funny. I never want to do that.
That's also super creepy.
And it is, but it also felt like it put a lot of pressure on me to be a certain way. And I don't know, it was just like, wow, you haven't even met me in person. So, like, to say that is a bit shocking. And also, like, thanks. Now I just feel like I'm on a pedestal that I can't get off of. And I don't want to be there because that's not who I am.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, that's real fucking weird. If that guy ever listens to this, don't do that, man. That's fucking weird.
he won't. He was really petty when I told him that I didn't think it was going to work out. That was a guy that was really conservative.
I think, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Petty guys are the kind of guys who would listen to your podcast out of spite.
Well, he, like, blocked me on social media for no reason. It was really funny.
Oh, well.
Ah.
Okay, here's a question. So we can a fun kind of way, a fun idea that's also very manipulative, which is kind of my favorite
Oh,
things.
God.
So if you wanted to figure out as many of, you had this list, you still have this checkbox list that you've made, because like everyone can make one, right? Like things that you want from someone. And they're not things that you would know just by reading a profile. So it can't be like height, weight, you know, that kind of stuff, or like, it's things you have to find out. So a scavenger hunt. What is the date you would do in order to find out as much of these things as possible? Because that would mean it would have to still be fun for both them and you, because otherwise it's kind of obvious that you're just trying to figure them out. But also, you'd have to find answers.
Oh, like I have to be subtle about it.
Well, I mean, you could be charming in an unsubtle way, like, you know, haha, I just want to know how many people you've killed. It's just a question. Haha.
Haha.
And
I
maybe-
just want to know if you're a murderer.
Yeah, maybe you're awkward in an endearing way.
I don't know. I'm really blunt, so I'll just ask them the questions. But I I don't know. I don't know what activity. I want to say escape room, but I hate them, so I would never do one.
I feel like I don't want to show people my competitive side on the first date. That's a second date. Like, first date is, this guy's pretty funny and cool. Second date is, holy shit, if we don't win, he's not going to see me anymore. Like, that's the escalation I want.
Okay. I don't know. All I can think of because I'm reading The Hunger Games is, I guess, The Hunger Games.
Well, I guess, yeah.
That would be a pretty good test. It's kind of the plot of the first book, but
No, that's fair.
I don't know.
Some, like, fake danger. So what about, like,
know.
paintballing?
No, because ow. But I feel like something that is sporty, but not... No, because I don't like sports. I don't know. I guess an escape room to figure out if you can work well together problem solving. But also, like, one time I went on a first date where we went and played glow-in-the-dark mini-putt, and that was awesome.
That does sound awesome.
Especially if it's, like, fun and you don't care who wins or you don't keep score or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, something like that. Or, like, there used to be a place over near the Science and Tech Museum called Midway where you go play, like, arcade games and win tickets and prizes.
I remember.
Something like that.
I've been on dates to those kind of places, and I never liked them because, like, a lot of those games are one player, so it's, like, constantly diverting your attention. I do like the escape room idea more than, like, bar trivia. I've done bar trivia a lot, but, like...
Or what about, like, going to, like, a place where you can play board games? Like the Loft or something.
That's true. That could be real cute. I would probably do that. But I would have to know which games we could play beforehand because you have to, like, I guess you get to learn something together, and that teaches... Yeah, you know what? I like that. So date one is a board game, like, board game place, so you can see how they learn things, because I think that's telling.
Okay.
And then if the date's going well, you go, hey, do you mind just stepping into this escape room with me?
We're just going to try something real quick.
Then you can see how your teamwork works in a more competitive setting. And then when the final door of the escape room opens, it's an underground fight club. Because now you're like, now the stakes are real.
No, then it's Hunger Games.
Yeah, now it's time to show me if you're going to die for me. Like... That's the...
Can you hunt for me?
Yeah, that's the 1, 2, 3 combo. The first 3 dates, like, works perfectly. Nothing can go wrong.
What about something that, like, involves cooking a meal?
Ooh. Well, I wouldn't do it as a first date because either one, you have to go to someone's house, and I don't want people to feel weird about that.
That's true.
2... you could, like, a cooking class is super fucking expensive, right? So it wouldn't be a cheap first date if that was the case. But I like the idea. I guess you could be like, you could be like, hey, let's go for a picnic. You bring some food, I'll bring some food. And they're like, that sounds great, let's do it. And you get there and you're like, oh yeah, but all my food hasn't been prepared yet. You want to help me make it? And then you, like, unpack a mini kitchen.
I mean, that would be really impressive, but also probably expensive as well.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, they'd be like, why didn't you pack food for the thing you invited me to do? That's not a good look.
No, it's not. Already you're coming off as a liar.
All right, I'm going to think about this for a while, but I have one more thought on red flags. If you were on a bad date, and for some reason you lacked the courage to tell them, nah, I'm not down, would you fake having a really bad red flag to get out of it?
I mean, probably what I would do is I would just be like, I have IBS and I feel like I'm going to shit my pants, so I'm just going to go home. Bye.
That's a really good one. Nobody follows you when you're like, I've been actually pooping this whole time. You gotta... No,
because if you bring up pooping or barfing, most of the time people are just like, yeah, bye, see ya, bye. So...
Absolutely. Pooping is not a first date conversation. Unless you're, like, a competitive pooper, I imagine.
I don't know. I have a lot of digestive troubles, so I'm never adverse to the topic, to be honest. But I do have my limits when discussing it. And I think, first date would be inappropriate.
Yeah. That's
But at the same time, I'm the type of person where if I was on a first date and I ate something and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I will be back in 15 minutes. Because, well, for me, it's also like, if you're going to date me, it's kind of it's part of who I am. It's like a struggle I have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I eat food and it makes me blow up like a balloon and I can't bend over for a bit. So, and I feel uncomfortable and don't want to move.
Yeah.
So
They got to get used to it.
I don't know. I guess in that way, it's probably a good test.
I feel like tests are weird when people do to each other because it's usually not behavior that they're going to be going through all the time. So like,
yeah, test is probably a bad word. I suppose, I mean, it's a good marker of like how much someone can be comfortable with you and how much you can be comfortable with them. If you're like okay to be like, "Hey, I need to go to the bathroom.
yeah.
I'm going to be a while. I'm taking a book. See you tomorrow." That kind of thing. Like, for example, I know a person who, them and their partner, they're absolutely lovely together, and they're very well matched. And they had been eating very, very healthily. They've been together for, I want to say like 6 years, but I'm honestly not sure. And they've been eating very well. And then they decided to have McDonald's a couple weeks ago, and they both had stomach problems as a result of the McDonald's.
Yep.
But what was especially adorable is they live in a fancy apartment that has multiple bathrooms. So they were like texting each other from the bathroom and sending each other photos of their faces, not of what was happening, but just being like, "How you doing? I'm doing okay. Do you have one of the cats? Yeah, I have one of the cats. Do you have a cat? Yeah, I have a cat. So, what you thinking about?" Like, and it was just, that kind of thing is really cute.
That is cute. That's a good red flag test. If you have bad McDonald's and you're going to shit yourself and they don't text you cats, you might as well just end it there. It's not worth it.
Right. Well, what I thought was especially endearing was it was like, they were both having stomach problems and both checking in with each other, and like nobody was embarrassed about the fact that they had leaky butts.
Leaky butts.
Because everybody gets leaky butts.
That was the other name for this podcast. It was Everybody Gets Leaky Butts.
Everybody gets leaky butts.
It had a much more upbeat opening with like a rock guitar. Everyone gets leaky butts.
Oh, yes. Well, on that note, I suppose we should make a demand, since that's what we seem to do.
I feel like the demand is easily kind of fine. Well, I was going to say tell us about one of your red flags you've noticed, but in case you can't reach us, maybe figure out one of your own red flags. That's introspective, right?
Yeah. Do some self-reflection and figure out why you are fucked up.
And then do nothing with that information. Just
and then just pack it away in your brain again.
Yeah, put it in your pocket. If you accidentally go to a therapist, maybe give it to them. Otherwise, it'll be fine. No one needs to know.
Go back to thinking about pizza.
Absolutely. Did you know that when all of the planets align and the universe is in harmony, that you'd be able to find more Charming Extrovert content on charmingextroverts.podbean.com? That's great. Also, YouTube's around. I don't think you need the planets to align for that, so go look us up.